My name is LeRon L. Barton. I've been interviewed on over 50 podcasts. I'm a regular contributor to a weekly news radio show. I've given talks at the University of San Francisco. I've been a part of panel discussions. I participated in workshops addressing mass incarceration. I've appeared on Al Jazeera. And I've performed in open mics all across the country. I've done all this while having a stutter. For those who don't know what stuttering is, the National Institute of Deafness and Communication Disorders defines it as a speech disorder characterized by sounds, syllables, or words. Prolongation of sounds and interruption of speech, known as blocks. Over 70 million people worldwide stutter. That's 1% of the population. And at this time, there's no cure for it. Having a stutter is to not only think about what you're going to say, but how you're going to say it. When you open your mouth, you think about how it's going to come out. Whether in public or in a one-on-one conversation, you concentrate on how you sound. Because having a stutter can be embarrassing, debilitating, and humiliating. Just imagine struggling to say a simple sentence like, "Hi, how are you? How was your day?" When you open your mouth, you stammer everywhere. Think about if you're in front of a crowd like this. Would you even want to speak? Having a stutter can impact your life socially and injure your confidence if you let it. When I was younger, I would notice that sometimes I would not talk as smoothly as the other kids. When I get excited or nervous, I would have a hard time speaking. I would stutter and get discouraged. Kids would laugh at how I repeated the same word 2 or 3 times. I'd ask myself, why am I having trouble talking? Is there something wrong with me? My mother, she would tell me, slow down when you talk. My father, he'd make a joke of it and say, there's nothing wrong with you. Your brain is working faster than your mouth, so at least you know you have a brain. I'd watch as my brother and father were able to get their stutter under control, but I still had trouble with mine. In college, my stutter would come and go. When I needed to make a presentation in class, sometimes it would go off without a hitch. I could talk smoothly with no stammer. I'd wow the audience with my details and content and say to myself, you just hear yourself, LeRon? You sounded really good. Then with the next presentation, I'd stutter and have a hard time even introducing myself. After the discussion, I would beat up on myself and say, LeRon, what the hell just happened? Because of this, my confidence took a beating. If I was in class and knew the answer or had something important to add to a discussion, I would stay silent because I didn't want to risk stuttering. I would just avoid any public discourse. After college, the job interview became a hurdle that I would have to conquer. My resume and experience looked great. I was a great candidate, and that would get me in the door. However, when it came time to sit down with the hiring manager to discuss why I would be a great fit for the position, I would dread that meeting. Oh man, crap. How come they just can't make a decision based on my resume, I would say. There were times when the interviews went well. I was cool and I was poised. Then there were the interviews where I stumbled, repeated the same phrase 2 or 3 times, and If you counted how many times I said in an interview, you would be amazed. It was crazy. Needless to say, I didn't receive a lot of callbacks for the 2nd or 3rd round of interviews, so I was broke a lot. Dating was also a bit of a challenge. The initial meet in public was never a problem. I never really had a problem asking women out. But the actual date itself, we'd have dinner, I'm excited, the date is going well, and then bam, I'd fall apart. I would be stuttering everywhere. And let's not add alcohol in the mix. My stutter would be out of control. Needless to say, I was excited when texting and online dating became popular, right? I could dazzle women with my quick wit, intellect, and charm through the written word. I'm a writer. I love writing. But I also love conversation. Exchanging ideas between 2 or more people has always been one of my favorite pastimes. So when I restricted that to the written word, that felt like I was hiding. And that's never been the kind of person I am. You know, there were times where I would be so down, and I'd ask myself, would I ever be able to talk like a normal human being? Would I ever be able to have a conversation and just not stumble through it? The breakthrough for me was when I was asked to speak at an event about racism. I was excited. This is a topic that I'm very passionate about, but I was afraid. Would I stand out to the crowd, start stuttering, and fall flat on my face? I was so afraid to fail, to not say anything, that I almost didn't accept the invite. But then I realized that I cannot live my life being afraid of stuttering, and that was it. I wasn't afraid of stuttering. I was afraid of people's reaction to my stuttering. So I said to myself, LeRon, everyone has something that they deal with, a struggle, a challenge. You're going to stop your life because of this? Nah, that's not you. You're not built like that. So I practiced what I was going to say a lot. I must have repeated my segment at least 40 times, going over and over and over what I had to say. When it came time to present, I took a deep breath, and I said to myself, you got this. I stumbled a bit. It's going to sound a little corny, but it was like riding a bike. You fall off the bike a couple times, but you get back on the bike and keep riding, right? From that moment, I was off. I felt good, like I conquered something. As I was speaking, I studied the faces in the crowd. They weren't laughing or whispering the fact that I had a stutter. They had smiles on their faces. The people enjoyed what I had to say. They were hanging on to every word that came out of my mouth. So you know what? I stopped worrying about if they noticed my stutter because they didn't care. That was it. I spent more time worrying about if I were to stutter than if I did stutter. I was setting myself up for failure. So I put that out of my mind. Okay, it was only a 7-minute monologue, and it wasn't the smoothest talk, but for me, this was like delivering the State of the Union. I felt great, and I realized I got this. I can beat this. Today, I talk as much as I can. If a panel or workshop invites me to participate and give my thoughts on a topic, I'm there. I no longer fear the job interview. I'm like that kid in class that always has their hand up wanting to answer the question. I recently joined a local speaking group and love that I get a chance to stand up in front of the class and talk. When I think about how far I've come with my stutter, I'm reminded of a story my mother told me years ago. She said, LeRon, you didn't talk a lot when you were younger, so we took you to the doctor. The doctor looked you up and down and said, he will talk when he's ready. Now you can't shut up. She's right. I'm not going to shut up. I'm not going to stop talking in fear of me stuttering. When I have a conversation, I talk slow. I'm not trying to get everything out so quickly, so I just ram it out there. I also take a deep breath and say to myself, it's okay. Most importantly, I own my stutter. You know, I've overcome a lot. I grew up in poverty. I have ADHD. I tend to sing random songs for no reason, and I have a stutter. I'm not ashamed of it. Having a stutter is such a small part of who I am. I'm a published writer. I've hiked in Machu Picchu, really. I'm a professional, and I stutter and stammer. There are famous actors, athletes, and world leaders who stutter. Award-winning Broadway and film actor James Earl Jones stutters. Film legend Marilyn Monroe had a stutter. NBA Hall of Famer, Laker Bill Walton has a stutter. And Lewis Carroll, who wrote Alice in Wonderland, had a stutter, and they did not let that stop them. Sounds like I'm in really good company, right? Having a stutter has made me want to succeed in spite of it. As I stand on this stage and talk with you about the obstacles I've overcome with my stutter, I want you to know that this is a metaphor for what we have to deal with in life. We all have something that we have to conquer. I have a speech impediment. You may have a fear of flying, difficulty with a certain subject, something that you've just been trying to master and it's just not clicking. What I'm here to tell you is that we all have that one thing, that one hurdle, that one challenge that has made us want to quit. But we can't. We have to keep going. Life is saying, you know what, I'm not going to let this stop me. You may knock me down, but I'm going to keep getting up and getting up and getting up. And when you get up, and this is the important part, don't worry about how you look when you get up. Just brush yourself off, keep it moving. I think about this when I begin to speak. I think about the fear, but I realize I cannot live my life being afraid if I stumble over a word, a sentence, or even a paragraph. I'm handling this. I will not be a prisoner to fear. My name is LeRon L. Barton. I have a stutter, and I will not let that stop me. Thank you very much. All right.